Count 8, defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy and punishment is set at 20 years. Count 9, rape in the first degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree.
You're about to witness how the law turns its gaze inward, how the very people sworn to protect and serve found themselves standing before the same justice they once represented. Amber Guyger, Daniel Holtzclaw, Leonard Galli, Jayleen Fleer. Each name tells a story of duty undone, of power twisted until it broke. These are not scenes from a show, they are transcripts of real courtroom moments where silence hit harder than any verdict. It begins not with a weapon or a chase, but with a mistake that shattered trust across a nation. Amber Guyger's case wasn't supposed to exist. An off-duty Dallas police officer, she returned home one night, weary from a long shift. The door she opened felt familiar, the layout nearly identical, but it wasn't her apartment. Inside, 26-year-old Botham Jean sat on his couch eating ice cream. Seconds later, he was gone.
Whenever I shot the first 2 shots where he ended up falling down.
And why did you shoot?
Because I was scared that he was going to come at me and kill me.
That was your reason?
Yes, sir.
Guyger told investigators she believed she was in her own home. The defense clung to that error, framing the shooting as a tragic misperception born from exhaustion. Prosecutors, however, pointed to something deeper. A sense of authority that had dulled her awareness, a belief that instinct justified judgment. Under Texas Penal Code Section 19.02, the jury had to decide whether her fear was reasonable or reckless. The courtroom filled with tension that reached beyond one defendant. Every word, every tear carried echoes of a country divided over policing and accountability. When the verdict came guilty of murder, there were no cheers, only quiet disbelief. Botham Jean's family sat still, their pain silent yet immense. Then came the moment that changed everything. During sentencing, Jean's younger brother Brant asked to speak. He approached Guyger, looked her in the eyes, and offered forgiveness. The courtroom froze as he embraced the woman who had killed his brother. Moments later, the presiding judge stepped down from the bench and handed Guyger a Bible, a human gesture that blurred the line between law and mercy. Outside, some called it grace. Others called it privilege. Inside, it felt like something neither side had words for. The sentence, 10 years, left the nation divided. But one thing was clear. Forgiveness had entered the record, and justice had never felt so complex. But while one courtroom wrestled with redemption, another faced something darker, betrayal carried out in silence and secrecy. Daniel Holtzclaw's name had once meant promise inside the Oklahoma City Police Department. He was young, disciplined, and ambitious, a model officer in every sense. But when the verdict came, the badge that once protected him became evidence against him. The courtroom fell silent as he stood motionless, tears streaming down his face while each guilty echoed through the air. His authority had turned into a weapon. The case centered on forensic details, DNA recovered from inside Holtzclaw's patrol car, and on the stories of multiple women, none of whom knew each other yet. Each described the same pattern of manipulation. The defense argued contamination error, even conspiracy. But prosecutors painted a pattern too consistent to ignore. Each account mirrored the next authority used to intimidate, control, and silence. As jurors delivered their verdicts, emotion overtook the room. Some victims wept quietly, others clasped hands in disbelief. Uniformed officers sat still, faces pale as they watched one of their own condemned reports later revealed controversy. Recanted testimony, questions over a closed hearing. Whispers about procedure, but none of it reversed the outcome. The damage was permanent, both to Holtzclaw's name and to public faith in the badge itself. His sentence, 263 years in prison, was less a punishment than a symbol, proof that even authority must answer to the truth. And yet the next betrayal wasn't one of physical control, but digital deceit. A case where the badge became a disguise for something far more insidious. Jayleen Fleer was just 27, a deputy in San Diego County. On paper, his life was steady: husband, athlete, youth coach. His reputation in the community was spotless. But behind the screen, under hidden usernames, he lived another life. He used Snapchat to reach out to underage girls, messages that vanished within seconds, conversations carefully crafted to manipulate trust. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received a tip that sparked an investigation. Cybercrime detectives traced his online activity, matched his usernames to his county-issued phone, and uncovered thousands of exchanges that revealed calculated grooming. California Penal Code sections 288.2 and 288.3 prohibit the distribution of harmful material and unlawful contact with minors laws, designed to stop exactly what Fleer was doing. At one point, he faced 44 felony counts. Eventually, he pleaded guilty to 20, including multiple acts involving girls as young as 12. When the sentence was read, 12 years and 8 months in prison, there were no cheers, no gasps, only quiet devastation. The very man who was supposed to protect their children had used his badge to reach them. Instead, Fleer's case became a warning about the digital age, how easily trust can be exploited, and how technology can both conceal and reveal the truth. The same devices that helped him hide became the evidence that ended his career and freedom. But not every exposure began with police work or surveillance warrants. Sometimes it was the internet itself that set the trap. Leonard Galli, known to some by his online alias, was a retired officer and defensive tactics instructor in Pennsylvania. He had spent years teaching recruits restraint control and ethics, yet one evening those lessons vanished the moment he met the wrong person. The man waiting for him wasn't a minor. It was Musa Harris, a content creator who ran a channel called LC Predator Catcher, posing online as a 15-year-old boy to expose adults seeking illegal encounters. When Galli arrived at the meeting spot, cameras were already rolling. The confrontation unfolded, live-streamed for the world to see. Galli tried to deny, deflect, and discredit, but his own words betrayed him. Viewers would later watch the footage in disbelief, as a former officer once tasked with protection fell into the same traps he had once warned others about. The evidence, chat logs, timestamps, and the recorded conversation was irrefutable. Prosecutors charged him under Pennsylvania statutes, covering unlawful contact with a minor and criminal attempt. Both felonies faced with the undeniable proof, Galli pleaded guilty. The courtroom that followed was subdued, almost mechanical. 1 to 2 years in prison, 5 years probation, and lifetime registration as a Tier 3 offender. No cameras, no interviews, just paperwork and silence. A man who once lectured others about responsibility now stood as its cautionary tale. Each of these cases revealed a different face of the same failure, when those who wear the badge forget the weight it carries. Guyger's case exposed the danger of instinct unchecked. Holtzclaw's shattered trust from within. Fleer's revealed the weaponization of technology. And Galli's reminded the world that arrogance is its own downfall. Justice in these courtrooms was not an idea, it was an autopsy of trust. Each verdict dissected the boundary between authority and accountability, showing that the uniform does not shield one from consequence. And when the gavel falls, it does not echo differently. For those in uniform, it echoes louder. So tell me, what does justice mean when it must police itself?